The Lamborghini 350 GT is a Grand Tourer manufactured by Lamborghini between 1964 and 1966. It was the first production vehicle produced by Lamborghini. The 350 GT was based on the earlier Lamborghini 350 GTV and was equipped with a 3.5-liter V12 engine and a two-door coupe body by Carrozzeria Touring. The 350 GT debuted at the March 1964 Geneva Motor Show and production began the following May. The success of this model ensured the company's survival, establishing it as a viable competitor with rival manufacturer Ferrari. Initial design team. After the testing of his prototype Lamborghini engine in May 1963, then lead engineer Giotto Bizzarini left the company. The following month Ferruccio Lamborghini tasked engineer Giampaolo Dallaro with developing a production version of Bizzarini's 350 GTV Grand Tourer. Dallaro was assisted in this project by engineer Paolo Stanzani and test driver Bob Wallace. Dallaro and Stanzani quickly realized that the 350 GTV was not properly designed for mass production. They began working in parallel on two projects that would result in the production 350 GT. First, they began detuning the original Bizzarini engine and redesigning the original Bizzarini chassis for street use. Second, they started readying the 350 GTV for its late October 1963 Turin Auto Show debut, where Lamborghini hoped it would raise interest in the eventual production 350 GT, redesigning the GTV prototype. The 350 GT shared a number of features with the 350 GTV prototype, including a four-wheel independent suspension, the quad-cam 3.5-liter Lamborghini V12, and an aluminium body. A number of mechanical revisions and refinements were made due to the suggestions of the Neri and Bonaccini Racing Development Shop and test driver Bob Wallace. The body was redesigned by Carrozzeria Touring, retaining the original profile while cleaning up details of the design to result in a more cohesive appearance. Most noticeable was the replacement of the prototype's rotating hidden headlights with fixed headlights. As equipped to the 350 GTV, the Bizzarini designed 3.5-liter V12 was essentially a race motor, potentially developing 400 HP 294 kilowatts at 11,000 rpm. In order to fit his Grand Touring car with a smoother, more pleasant, longer-lasting engine that would be good for 40,000 hard miles between services, Ferruccio had Dallaro and Wallace detune a version of this prototype GTV motor for street use. This included replacing the elaborate and costly racing-style dry sump oiling system with a conventional wet sump system, reducing the compression ratio from 11:1 or above to 9.4:1, cutting back on the exotic materials specified for the crankshaft and other components to reduce cost, relocating the distributors to more accessible positions on the fronts of the exhaust cams hafts, adoption of a single, very tall Lamborghini-made oil filter, replacing the expensive 36 mm. Downdraft racing Weber carburetors with conventional, less expensive side draft 40 DCOE Webers. This resolved clearance problems seen in the GTV prototype and enabled the exceptionally low hood line Ferruccio desired. Softening the cam profiles for smoother running during street driving. This first detuned L350 engine was tested on October 3, 1963. The result later fit in the 350 GT was a very capable 270 HP 199 kilowatts power plant that could reach 254 kilometers h 158 miles per hour in top. While this 350 GT design work continued, the 350 GTV prototype was rushed to completion for the upcoming October 26 press meeting and the subsequent inauguration of the Turin Auto Show on the 30th. The 350 GTV was shown at the Turin Auto Show with the original Bizarrini Racing V12 engine with its downdraft Webers, rear distributors, etc. displayed alongside, as it was not adapted to the chassis. The car was a static display with the suspension arms simply tack welded in place and the engine not installed. Lukewarm reaction to the car caused Ferruccio Lamborghini to postpone plans for immediate production and move on to introducing Dallara's new 350 GT design. In March 1964, only 5 months after the debut of the GTV in Turin, the redesigned GTV, now called the 350 GT, was debuted at the Geneva Auto Show. It was greeted with sufficient enthusiasm that Ferruccio decided to proceed with production in May 1964. Manufacturing and assembly. The manufacture of the bodies was entrusted to Touring of Milan, who used their patented superleggera method of construction to fix aluminium alloy panels directly to a tubular structure. The first 350 GT frame was fabricated by Neri and Bonaccini, who continued to act as Lamborghini's chassis supplier until production of the 350 GT was underway, when the job was turned over to Marchesi. Chassis and bodies were mated at Touring, which then delivered the complete assemblies with even the bumpers in place to the Lamborghini factory. The cars could be ordered in several colors. The first 350 GT chassis and body, delivered to the Lamborghini factory on March 9, 1964, was named number 101 Touring number 17001. That same month number 101 debuted at the Geneva show. The first customer delivery of a 350 GT was number 104 Touring number 17004, delivered on July 31, 1964. Number 104 is displayed in mint condition at the Sinsheim Technical Museum. Production increased slowly, despite the initial goal of building 10 cars a week. Less than 25 cars were delivered to customers in 1964. Lamborghini produced 120 350 GTS before replacing it with the Lamborghini 400 GT in 1966. Many 350 GTS were subsequently fitted with the larger 4.0-liter engine used in the 400 GT, in order to take advantage of the later engine's greater power and better replacement parts availability. Specifications. The 350 GT had an all-aluminium alloy V12 engine mated to a 5-speed ZF manual transmission. It had an aluminium body, a Salisbury limited slip differential, 4-wheel independent suspension, and vacuum servo-assisted Girling disc brakes all round. The 350 GT was originally fitted with Pirelli Cinturato HS 205 section tires. It had a wheelbase of 2,550 mm 100.4 in, with a front and rear axle track of 1,380 mm 54.3 in. It measured 4,640 mm 182.7 in long by 1,730 mm 68.1 in wide and was 1,220 mm 48.0 in high. With its curb weight of 1,450 kilograms 3,197 pounds, the 350 GT could accelerate from 0 to 100 km per hour 0.0 to 62.1 miles per hour in 6.8 seconds, and from 0 to 100 miles per hour 0 to 161 km/h in 16.3 seconds, and go on to reach a top speed of 254 km per hour 158 miles per hour. Chassis. As was the case with the motor, Bizarrini's GTV racing chassis design was the basis of Dallara's 350 GT street chassis. The GTV chassis was unsuitable for a street car due to its lightweight construction and small door openings obstructed by tubing. Dallar's redesign for the production 350 GT used larger 60mm 2.4-inch square section steel tubing in a central floor, with front and rear cradles made from 50mm 2.0-in and 25mm 0.98-in tubing to support the engine, rear differential, and suspension mountings. This design provided easy entry and exit through the doors, aided in the quietness of the car, and provided a solid platform on which to mount the body. Suspension. The suspension was fully independent, with unequal length wishbones and coilover shock absorbers. In the rear, the coilover assembly was located to the rear of the suspension wishbone mountings. The rear suspension wishbones were asymmetrical front to back, with an offset that brought the rear wheel hubs towards the spring mountings. This arrangement provided increased resistance to torsion and improved stability during acceleration and braking. Anti-roll bars were equipped on front and rear. Engine. Quality control of the early 3.5L 3,464 cubic centimeters engines was very high. Each one underwent tests for 24 hours on a Schenck-Walch dynamometer, being run for the first 12 hours under electric power, and then with gasoline at increasing speeds, producing 280 HP 206 kilowatts at 6,500 RPM and 325 Nm 240 lb-ft of torque at 4,500 RPM. A detailed analysis was made of its behavior before installation in the car for at least 500 kilometers of mixed test running by Wallace. 350 GTS. The Lamborghini 350 GTS was a convertible roof spider version of the 350 GT, first shown at the November 1965 Turin Auto Show. Two were constructed by Carrozzeria Touring in 1965. When folded down, the convertible top was designed to be concealed in the storage area behind the two seats. Of the two originally built, Chassis 0328 was finished in black with an emerald green interior, while Chassis 0325 was painted gold with a brown interior. 3500 GTZ. The Lamborghini 3500 GTZ was designed by Ercole Spada and built by Zagato. It used a shortened Lamborghini 350 GT chassis. Two cars were built in total, chassis number 0310 and 0320. Chassis number 0310 was shown at the 1965 London Motor Show and was sold to Lamborghini's official agent in Milan. This car was then sent to Australia where it was converted to a RHD configuration. In 2006 this car was purchased by a European collector who converted the car back to a LHD configuration.